what it is all about. Also, the parents of children who went to school and want to study computer science and they don't understand exactly what it is. So we have to clarify the terminology. Professor David Harel, a very known computer science researcher in Israel, wrote many books. The first one was in 1987, I think. It was called The Spirit of Computing. And he describes the computer science, or informatics as it is called in Europe. And I have heard between the word that we're introducing myself, the word informatica, which I believe it is what you call computer science. Well, he described the computer science in three distinct kind of complexities. The computational complexity, which is where we try to solve problems. Sometimes we show that problems cannot be solved in a reasonable time. And there is also a group of problems that we can show that they will never be solved, that they cannot be solved, even if we have the largest computer with a large memory. I believe you will learn it or already learned it in your studies. Then the second complexity is the descriptive or behavioral complexity, which actually means to design software systems, which has an engineering aspect in its complexity. And the third complexity is the cognitive complexity, which has to do with cognition. And we would refer to artificial intelligence, for example, as a cognitive complexity. There are more descriptions. The Royal Society, the British Royal Society in 2012, came up with other descriptions or different descriptions between the different terms. Computing is the broad subject area. Everything is included in this subject area. ICT is what at the time it was the school subject in the national curriculum in Britain. This is information and communication technology. CS, computer science, is the rigorous academic discipline encompassing programming languages, data structure, algorithms, and more. And I will later show what are the core subjects that we include in computer science. IT, in information technology, is the use of computers in industry, commerce, arts, in many systems. And digital literacy is the general ability to use computers. The Citie report, the Citie is the consortium of European computing education. In 2012, I was part of this committee that published a report. I will be back to it later. And they explain digital literacy encompasses applied basic practical skills that every citizen should be familiar with to live in the 21st century, and we are there now. DL covers the fluency with standard software tools and the internet, and many of us use it today, the younger more than the more adults, but still almost everything is today online and needs these practical skills. Information technology is the infrastructure of the technology. It includes instructional technology, practical and operational knowledge. and basic user skills, as we already said, that everybody has to be familiar with now, like word processing and PowerPoint that I'm using right now. And computer science or informatics covers the science behind the information technology, behind the PowerPoint. Computer science is a distinct science characterized by its own concepts, methods, body of knowledge, and open issue. There are still many open issues that are not solved yet, and we have a future before us. Now something about the school computer science or informatics, and why we talk about school computer science. Why is it important that we introduce computer science into the school system? Well, I think it was about 2014 when a report came out that was called Towards Science 2020. It was designed by Microsoft, but there were about 40 researchers and computer scientists from all over countries all over the world, from all kinds of areas or disciplines that published this report. And what they said then in 2014 or something, they said, we believe computer science is poised to become as fundamental to science, and in particular the natural sciences, as mathematics has become to science, and in particular to physical sciences. We know, you know, I believe you know, that physics without mathematics cannot stand. They also had the recommendations, and I go through it very briefly because it's a very big report. Then they say, make teaching of computing more than just IT. I mentioned IT before. More than just IT classes and how to use PowerPoint. Make the basic principles of computer science, such as abstraction, which is a major issue of computer science, and codification, coding, again, the two have to go together, a core part of the science curriculum. Why? Why? Well, they said in the report why, and I will add, first of all, computer science is a full-fledged discipline, and it should be on the same par as physics, chemistry, and biology in schools. It has an interface with all areas, health, economics, also humanities, social sciences, everything. It actually touches every area of knowledge. Computer science, again, I said it and I will repeat it again and again. Computer science is the basis of digital technologies, which are not just another technology. Sorry, I have to shut the window here. There is a dog barking. Okay, all kinds of noises. Well, all other technologies invented by mankind stretch the physical abilities. Digital technologies and its scientific basis, the computer science, radically change the way we think, understand, and organize the world. And another thing, we should introduce computer science in schools, especially in high school, so that graduates be able to scholarly choose a discipline in higher education. It can be computer science or other sciences, but they have to get the right picture of what computer science is. I said, well, I go back to the to this and said, be able to scholarly choose a discipline in higher education. How do we know that it really helps? Well, a few years ago, my colleague and myself, we conducted a research. I won't go into the entire research, it's a long one. And you see the years are previous years, because then we conducted the research. But we see, and I hope you can see it, that, well, I didn't explain, I will explain it now in a minute, that we have two different programs in high school. We have 3 units and 5 units. 5 units is the more advanced curriculum. And we see very clearly, if you see these dark blue, these are the female that choose computer disciplines in higher education. The light blue is the males, and we see the difference, the big difference between the females that had no computer science in high school. This is the small green one. And those who had more computer science and 5 units and chose in higher education one of the disciplines of computing. So we were sure that this indeed helps, and indeed computer science in schools paves the way to higher education. I want to add something here before I go further. There are the digital literacy, the use of computer, the daily use of computer. I do not say this is not important. It is very important. This should start even earlier, much earlier than high school, maybe earlier as elementary school, maybe in kindergarten. And actually, I think that today young people, at least I see this in my country, I see this with my children, my grandchildren, that they come with it to school. They already know how to use computers, they know how to use phones, the cell phones, they know how to use iPads or other tools. They come already ready, but these are the young ones. The more elderly that have to maybe fill forms for different social events or health forms they have to fill, they still have a problem with it if they did not learn it in school in earlier years. So this is important, and if it's not taught, or if it does not come naturally, this is something we should teach at school. But this is not something I'm talking about. Today I'm talking about computer science in school. And now I'll go to the Israeli case. In Israel, we started actually even in the middle of the 70s of the previous century, we had computer science in school. But we didn't have special material. We didn't have material for teachers. We didn't have enough teachers. And it was mainly taught in a technological direction. But then in the beginning of the 90s of the previous century, the Ministry of Education formed a committee of academics. I was one of the members, of people from the Ministry of Education, and most important, of teachers, the few teachers that we had at the time, but they were part of the committee. And we designed a new curriculum for high school. At the time, I see I have here a mistake on the slide. Excuse me, it's high school. We had then, it was called a new program, and in like the beginning of the 90s, it was implemented in schools. It was implemented And at the same time, research started to see how well it is implemented, how well students perceive the subject. I will talk about the teachers later, but we had teachers, we gave them a crash program to be able to teach at school. And we published a paper. It is the 1995 paper that was published in the IEEE Computer. And what I have here is the principles that guided a few of the principles. We had 10 principles. I give here a few of the principles that guided the committee and the design of the curriculum. So what I said before, computer science is a full-fledged scientific subject. The program should concentrate on key concepts and foundation of the discipline. It's not just technology, it's the key concepts of the discipline. The discipline has two aspects. It's the theoretical aspects, or what I described before, David R.L. described before as the computational complexity, and the implementational aspects. I will go back to it in one slide. It was essential that new course material will be developed also for teachers and also for students. Because, as I said, we didn't have many teachers. We didn't have yet at the time teachers with an undergraduate degree in computer science. So they had to learn the subject, and they had to take courses in universities, but also to get some material that they can work with it. And then here is the zipper principle, just what I said before. The conceptual and the experimental issues should be interwoven throughout the program together. The theoretical aspect of the science, but also the experimental. Students will learn the foundations, but they will also program and code and run programs, algorithms on a computer. One very important principle is the teachers. I keep saying it, and I will say it again and again. Teachers certified to teach computer science must have an adequate formal computer science education. You cannot just come with from industry doing something and teach computer science. You won't come from history and teach physics. So you cannot come from history and teach computer science. You have to have an adequate and formal computer science education. And of course, in addition, a pedagogical knowledge, because a teacher is a teacher is a teacher, and you have to know how to teach. We succeeded in Israel to implement the high school program for now almost 30 years or more than 30 years. We then went down to middle school, and we have now also a program for middle school, which is not anymore on a pilot level, but it is not as learned as many as schools as take the high school program. And we also go to elementary school from the 4th grade and up, and we try. It is more difficult, and I'll explain in a minute why it is more difficult. In what concerns high school, there were the 4 elements that made it or make it now. First, it is the curriculum, the computer science curriculum syllabus must be well established. Then we have a mandatory CH teacher license that the Ministry of Education gives. but not before the teachers or the people that want to teach went through a preparation program or a certification program of computer science teacher. Not physics teacher, not mathematics teacher, but computer science teacher has a special program. And most important, we have research in computer science education that accompanied the program, the implementation of the program from the beginning, to see how well it is implemented. And we found many things. Among the things that I wasn't very happy with was that there is the curriculum, there is the program, and the teachers not always teach in the lines that we recommended. Sometimes they will teach more implementation because students want very much the hands-on, but we want also to teach the foundations. So we found this, and of course we found that there are brilliant teachers that teach very good, everything that we want. And we saw increasing number of students that take computer science and computer engineering, software engineering, system management in academia, as after they took computer science at school. So this is good for the country. This is good for computer science research. I think this is good for the world, and I'm trying now, being a member of many committees in Europe and the US, to spread the word into Europe, and I'll be in Europe in a minute. Europe and the world. Well, I said that we started in the early years of the early 19th of the previous century, and slowly but surely the other countries came, and in 2014 the Royal Society produced a report that explained, and I showed you before, that explained what computer science is, and recommended that computer science should be taught in schools. One of the problems Britain had is that they didn't have teachers, they didn't prepare enough teachers, and they didn't provide good preparation. Unfortunately, they know it. So basically, the program failed, and now the ministry provided an enormous budget in Britain to have a well-established teacher preparation, along with introducing the computing into schools. The CSTA, which is Computer Science Teacher Association, with an international association of teachers, but actually more US oriented. They already had in 2003, and then in 2011, they published the model curriculum for K-12. K-12 is from kindergarten till the 12th grade in schools. And they also have explanation what computer science is and what should be taught in schools. Then there were world initiatives, US, and the period of Obama. Obama announced CS, Computer Science for All, and things were more and more developed in each country in the US, 50 countries, each country behaves in another way, and the decision to include computer science in schools must be decided in each country in its regulation sort of ways. In Europe was a little bit behind. The Citie report I mentioned before was published in 2017, and at the time I was part of the committee. We looked into many Europe countries to see what is taught in the countries, if something is taught at all, if there are teachers, if what is taught is computer science, if what is taught is digital literacy, and we published the report. And after the report, Europe, the actually ACM Europe Council, found that it is important to establish a coalition. And this is the Informatics for All Coalition. This is an initiative that has been conceived by a coalition formed by ACM Europe, Informatics Europe, and CPIS, which is the Council for European Professional Societies. ACM Europe, it's a part of the ACM, I'm sure you're familiar with, and Informatics Europe incorporates all informatics institutions in Europe. And the Informatics for All provides an opportunity to have an impact of computing across Europe. And I'll go a bit further. This is Informatics for All. I hope you can see it well. Informatics for All strategy. We had a strategy. It can be found on the Informatics for All website. I very much recommend to look at it. We published a paper in the CICM. We then had the I must look the informatics reference framework, which I'll mention in a minute, and the framework was adopted by the European Commission, which is very important. I'll let you know what we say in the framework. It's a report. It's not that big. It's about 20 pages, and you can find it on the website of Informatics for All. And we mention core topics that should be taught in schools. Actually, they should be taught in universities as well, and they are taught there. And it's data and information, algorithms, of course. You remember algorithmics is the spirit of computing, programming, algorithms, theory must go together with programming as a zipper. Computing systems, networking, human-computer interaction, design, then development. It has much digital creativity in the discipline. Modeling, of course, today, privacy, safety, security, and responsibility and empowerment of the students. We gave an example of the outcomes that we hope can be achieved in primary school, less than in upper schools. Explain benefits and danger of using the internet, identify and describe ethical principles to adopt in the use of digital tools. Then in lower secondary, explain, give examples of the benefit, but also the danger of social networks, identify socially and ethically acceptance ways of using digital tools, critically reflect on digital artifacts implementations for personal common practice in concrete situation. And for high school, upper high school, explain, giving examples of ethically acceptable uses, and analyze and characterize relations between purpose internationally and opportunities of use of digital artifacts, as well as the impact on individuals. And of course, all this is based on the profound concepts of the science. How do we do it? Pedagogy. Can someone tell me what about the time? Oh, I'm. Shall I stop here?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we only have 5 minutes left, and then we have to move on to the questions.
I hardly understand you. You want me to stop the sharing?
We only have 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. So I can't show you. I'll stop the sharing and maybe
We'll begin with the questions.
Yeah. Did I manage to stop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There are two items that I wanted to emphasize. These are the teachers and the gender. I will say only one sentence: the teacher are the cornerstone of any implementation of any curriculum. Without teacher, we can do nothing. And the gender, we are too few women, girls, students in the computing disciplines. We have about 30% in Israel in schools and in universities. In other countries it is less, but it is not enough. We want to have more women. We have to have inclusion of all kinds of populations. Is there time for questions for the audience?
Yes, we will start with the questions now. Chicos, ¿alguna pregunta aquí en el auditorio presencial? En el lado virtual, si tienen alguna pregunta, la pueden poner en el chat, por favor.
Can you open for me the audience?
Yeah, we have one question, Dr. Judit.
Yeah.
The first question is, I got the point that we should learn more about CS from a very young age, perhaps in kindergarten, but many times.
I cannot understand. I cannot understand you. Sorry. Can you repeat?
Yes, the question is in the chat. Could you look if you can see the chat, please? So I'll repeat the question. I got the point that we should learn more about CS from a very young age, perhaps in kindergarten, but many times at least in Peru. It is believed that children shouldn't connect to technology from an early age due to the insecurity that can exist in the web. So the parents and the children simply prefer not to educate about it. And in schools, the teaching about CS is very precarious. Also, in Peru, we don't follow the 4 elements. And if some schools do, it's because they really care about it, and probably they are private schools. What should we do as students in a university?
Educating them and explaining them at a very young age that this is dangerous, that there are ethical, social problems. And this is why I gave the example of what we want from elementary school. I hope I answered the question. And even in kindergarten, even I see very young children that they are not aware of the dangerous, that they are not aware of the bias that can happen, and educating them at school, even in kindergarten, is very important. It is very difficult to do because the teachers of elementary school, even they are general teachers, they are not all of them are knowledgeable about these about this technology. So they have to be trained while they are teachers. They have to be trained and learn that so that they can convey their knowledge to the children.